Toku Secrets is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Hey everybody, it's Jason from Orange Time Force, and you're watching Toku Secrets Podcast.
Tokusatsu, taking the form of many shows including Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes. And today, a group of fans come together to review it for you as Toku Secrets.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Toku Secrets Podcast, presented by animesecrets.org. I am your host, Nathan Desa, and we've had a little bit of peace. Riz and I know that there was another podcast that was posted before this, but Riz and I had a fun time at a Ranger Stop and Pop, but unfortunately, we have to get back to reality, and that means that we have to suffer through more Zyuranger, unfortunately. We're going to be taking a look at 23 through 32 today. We have the whole crew on. I'm your host, Boken Silver, and I'm going to let the other guys introduce themselves. Go ahead, guys.
Pat Chinkenred here, and I want to get off this train already.
Hey, Riz, Gokai Red, and while I have many opinions about Zyuranger,
Here it comes.
Dawn and Gekiranger still suck more.
There we go. Got it out of the system early today.
There we go.
Nope. The rant I promised Nathan will come later. Don't worry.
God dang it.
Of course. And of course, you can't forget Kyoryu Green, Anthony Davis, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to Ranger Stop, so yeah.
Well, you were forgotten about then.
Wah, wah.
So another brief thing I want to say before we get started on this podcast. In the time between the Ranger Stop and Pop podcast that we did before this one and this one, I actually did start listening to this audio drama that Riz and Anthony have been talking about, and wow, like it is absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to taking a look at it. But would we do a comparison between that and Zyuranger? The answer is hell no, because it'll be a bloodbath.
Mighty Morphin versus Zyuranger versus audio drama is a bloodbath for audio drama to win. There is no comparison.
I'm still guaranteeing that when we do Time Ranger, there will be a versus with Time Force. I'm not saying that everyone will love Time Ranger more than Time Force, but I'm saying they'll think it's good enough to warrant a comparison at least. And I'll go.
And we might have our first full-time review guest for a series with that one.
Yeah, that's Mark, right?
Yeah, Mark from Ranger Stop and Pop.
Yeah, he was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Mark ain't here, but you'll meet Mark soon enough, and you're gonna love him.
Yeah. So with that said,
No, it was a reference to the room.
Room, yeah.
I've never seen it.
Should that it's a bit.
You don't want to.
Okay,
Unless you want to let Gavin laugh.
let's not talk about that. At least not in this podcast. So anyway, we're doing 23 through 32, so we're back to just doing the 10 episodes per segment. That said, let's give a recap of what happened last time. So, reviewed a 6-episode story arc that introduced Geki's long-lost brother, Burai, who was revived from stasis, and he was obsessed with killing Geki because he wanted to get revenge for the death of his parents and wanted to achieve his father's dreams of world domination. It's really complicated, and if you want more details, just go back and look at the podcast before. We're kind of confused there. We're not going to go into details there. Burai is, of course, Dragon Ranger. He battled against the Zyurangers. He joined forces with Bandora and helped them kill Daijujin, but Daijujin revived himself. And then Burai learned from the Spirit of Life, Clotho, that he only had a limited time to live. He has his own pocket dimension where he can stay, but if he goes into the real world, this candle will slowly burn away, and once it burns away completely, he dies. And he was given his own guardian beast, Dragon Caesar, and then Burai pretty much saw the error of his ways, and he's joined the Zyurangers, sort of, as Dragon Ranger, but he's still keeping his life a secret. So We're going to move on to the episodes. We got a handful of filler episodes here. First, we have the Knuckleball of Infatuation filler episode. None of the Zyurangers really play a huge part in this episode. Pandora creates this monster that makes people fall in love with at first sight, which makes things complicated for this boy who wants to confess his love for a girl. A couple of things to note. It was kind of softly debuted in the previous episode, but it gets like a proper debut here. Combination between Dragon Caesar and the Mammoth, Triceratops, and Saber-toothed Tiger Guardian Beasts. Go Ryujin. It's the Dragon Zord fighting mode in Power Rangers. Burai is a main character, but he's only lightly credited. Like I said in previous ones, 6 Rangers have never been added to the opening credits, but Dragon Caesar and Go Ryujin are added to the credits. Now, Burai does not transform into Dragon Ranger. He only appears briefly. You summon Dragon Caesar, he doesn't transform, and then they acknowledge each other before Burai runs off. Anybody want to say something about this episode? I just spoke for quite a few minutes, so you guys can go ahead first.
Only thing I want to say about this episode is you summed this up perfectly. It's a filler episode where none of the Zyurangers play a major role.
I have some comments here, honestly, that I have to make. Watching this episode made me feel dirty.
Because Goshi started kissing his sidecar?
You have no idea.
No, not just that, but I felt kind of uncomfortable about seeing children, like young children, running around trying to profess their love to other kids, and I felt like we had too much emphasis on that for my taste, and I just didn't. It made me feel really icky inside, and I didn't like it.
See, my version of that is the fact that the little boy wanted to actually force this girl to fall in love with him. That was my issue. That kind of made me uncomfortable. I was like, dude, like essentially you're doing. It's not consent. You know what I'm saying? This is why people always gotta say consent always matters, especially in this context.
I'll be honest. I watched these episodes like
people like people are like, oh, I know they're kids, but they're like, but still, it's no excuse.
I watched these episodes like a couple of weeks ago. I'm pretty sure I had seen these already and made notes of them before Riz and I even met for Ranger Stop and Pop. So literally the only thing I remember about this episode is that there's a point where she falls under the spell and he falls in love with the sidecar of his motorcycle, which, okay, that's funny, but it's not the only thing I should be remembering from an episode.
There's your secret preview to O-Ranger.
Pretty much. I'm gonna give this one a 5.
5? No, man, this is a 3.
Definitely 3, a major 3.
Y'all think this is a 3? What is wrong with y'all?
Dang.
This is a 2.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3, I guess. Then because I see some of the problems, but it just didn't do anything for me. So
One of us.
So now we got another filler episode where it's a boy-centric episode, and keep in mind every time I say something that's centric, it doesn't mean that it actually does anything for them. I wish you guys could see me on video because I would always have to put up air quotes to say like boy or Don-centric or whatever.
Oh yeah, this infamous
this is called
episode.
Hope Springs. This is called Hope Springs a Turtle, where there's. I think a lot of people might, even Mighty Morphin fans might remember this because they literally make a reference to the Mighty Morphin equivalent episode in the Once and Always special. There's a turtle that has a traffic light on it. Dora Tortoise, it was called. I think it was called Shell Shock in Power Rangers. he puts he's a monster that's created by Top Pad and Bookback, and uses his powers on Boy to like make him just be forced to run and he can't stop. Uh, only see Burai again briefly. He only appears to summon Dragon Caesar. He has no lines, and he never even transforms into Dragon Ranger. Uh, I want to start off by just saying this. This is something that really annoys me. So not able to form Daijujin to form. They're not able to activate Daijujin to battle the monster, and it's mostly like the Tyrannosaurus and Dragon Caesar. And Tyrannosaurus destroys the monster. That really annoyed me because, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like, they're like early Sixth Ranger mechs. It was a while before Sixth Ranger mechs where I actually remember regularly being capable of like destroying a monster by itself. Like first Sixth Ranger mech that I remember destroying a monster by itself was King Pyramider, whatever Pyramidus was called. Yeah.
Great Pyramid.
I remember that destroying a monster once in its debut, but I don't remember I don't remember Dragon Caesar or Juan Tiger destroying a monster by itself. And
did the Mega Winger?
I can't remember that either.
I can't remember.
But my point is that this is early on for Dragon Caesar. Like this could have been an opportunity to let Dragon Caesar shine and destroy the monster by itself, and it didn't happen. So that's just a personal gripe that I have with it. I don't know. I know it's a weird thing to harp on. I don't know. I hate how. Go ahead, Patrick.
I mean, it's the first instance of what we know as Sixth Ranger syndrome, where they join the team and they're not as amazing as they were when they first appeared.
Yeah.
The first one I remember that was regularly capable of destroying monsters by itself was Bull Taurus, the Black Knight mech.
Oh yeah, that thing was unstoppable.
And of course the V-Rex, the Q-Rex.
Yeah.
Were you going to say, Riz? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna give my gripe about this episode. It's something I started to first notice in the previous episode, but I didn't feel like talking about it on the last episode made sense, like for whatever it was, like episode 23. But so my gripe here is we're 2 episodes post Burai turning good, and Geki knows this is his brother. Geki and him have reconciled, but then Geki doesn't seem to care about Burai all that much. Like he's not like, where did Burai go? Why isn't Burai here? What happened to Burai? Or like, even questioning it, mentioning it. Why aren't they hanging out? Like he never questions anything. It's like it's almost as if the Burai story arc that preceded this didn't happen. And I felt like that for most of episode 23 and part of 24 that maybe I had a fever dream and Burai didn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Zyurangers don't seem to remember it.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was having that same feeling during the last episode that we're looking at today, because it happens after the end of that big story arc where Bandor's big plan basically falls flat. In the next episode, she's just back to status quo. Like there's no fallout. There's no fallout. None. Yeah.
And I mean, okay, so my other complaint here is I feel like it's something I should have said in the last podcast, but I think I was still kind of digesting what I had watched at the time. But the way Geki and the group quickly accepted Burai gave me whiplash. Like it was an instant, oh my god, Burai, you're one of us. We love you. You're amazing. I noted it in Mighty Morphin, but I was more okay with it in Mighty Morphin than I was here. Because at least after Tommy joined the team, Tommy was there in civilian form on and off doing his own thing, and you could see him, he was hanging out with the group. He just conveniently was always doing something else when the monster attacked, so he didn't have his communicator on him. That's... At least they made an attempt to keep him relevant.
Mhm.
But they don't keep Burai relevant, and it bugs the ever-living crap out of me. But
Yeah.
with all that said, still better than frickin' Gekiranger and Zan, because dear God,
Here it
Zan
is.
sucks, and Gekiranger is the worst thing to ever exist. And Nathan, this is payback for Ranger Stop and Pop's recap where I couldn't do this because we had guests on the line, and I wanted to be nice to them and not endure and let them endure this rant that I'm giving you right now, because I have to remind you that anything I've seen in Gekiranger so far, anything I've seen in Zyuranger so far, is still better than the garbage I saw in Gekiranger.
Man, I ran out of grape soda at the wrong time.
I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying.
You get it out of your system.
Despite me complaining about the Burai stuff, I'd still rather watch that garbage than the Gekiranger garbage.
You good? You got it out of your system now?
Just,
It's gone.
I'm not even
fine.
going to say that name anymore. It's actually just going to call it the J word at this point.
Yeah, the J word. We need one of those soundboards.
And the J word and the G word.
We need one of those soundboards that every time someone gets ready to say it, you just bleep us.
So, okay, you say that, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to some friends of mine, and then I'm going to tell you the story. Shout out to my friends at the Power Trip podcast. They're amazing. Their Nathan Marchand has a soundboard, and every time they accidentally curse on the podcast, he edits in the Dragon Dagger noise over the curse.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like an editing trope we need
So every
to
time
put
you just might
in.
say, it's like,
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It is. It's so great. But yeah, Nate, that was what I promised you last time, so I've had to fulfill my promise to you. Now, back to my complaint train, because I'm not done yet. I have to say, I really enjoyed the Mighty Morphin episode that comes from Hope Springs A Turtle a lot. I thought it was a really cool episode. It didn't really do a lot, like there's not any big thing with it, but I don't know, I just always fondly look back at the turtle monster in Mighty Morphin as one of my favorite, like, villain monster things.
It's memorable enough for them to make a reference in Once and Always, so...
Well, yeah, but not only that, but I just enjoyed the villain, even in the Mighty Morphin episode, Once and Always, aside. I just... It stung a little bit to me to see less effort put into the Sentai episode than the adaptation did in America. Because, I don't know, it just felt lazy writing.
Sums up the whole season right there.
I mean, yes, but it's still... But the lazy writing is still better than the damn stuff we got in Gekiranger.
You said you were done.
Patrick, we can be on episode 200 of Toku Secrets, and I'll never be done.
Anthony, you want to?
This is all Anthony.
Want to say anything about this episode, Anthony?
Yeah. Nothing. This episode kind of just was like more like a meh episode.
I'm calling him meh.
I actually.
What was that, Patrick?
Yeah, I forgot about it. I forgot about this episode completely.
My original notes, I gave it a 5, but honestly, the more I think about it, that gripe that I have with Dragon Caesar not destroying the monster, and I know if it's a huge gripe, but like this was an opportunity for him to do that, so I'm probably going to give this a 3, actually.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 3 just to keep the uniform, but I was originally gonna say a 4.
Would we agree that it would have been cooler if Dragon Caesar just destroyed the monster by itself?
I mean,
Would
he
have been
hasn't.
cooler if Geki actually remembered he had a brother that was the Ranger.
And that would be cool too.
I'm glad that you're. I'm glad that you're starting to see why I don't like Geki as a character very much.
I mean, okay, but like Geki isn't a bad character.
Not yet.
He's not a character that I want to punch in the face.
Not yet.
He's not Zon.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
He will not be Zon.
We still haven't gotten to the part that really makes me hate Geki, but
Is it in this set of episodes?
no, we haven't even seen those episodes yet.
Okay. Well, we'll wait then.
That'll be in the next batch of episodes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to episode 25, the park where demons dwell. She-centric episode filler. Again, I had air quotes over go she-centric. So in this episode, Bandora curses a park statue that creates toxic moths that poison children. What's weird is that Burai, even though Burai's role in this episode is exactly the same as the other two, where he just shows up at the last minute to summon Dragon Caesar, he actually transforms into Dragon Ranger, or he does. Not sure why. That was kind of weird, but at least with Tommy, it makes sense because for him to morph, because they have to like transition to the Sentai footage, I guess. So, like with Burai, like I don't know, but I don't know what else to say. Like, I guess this episode tries to have an environmental. Like, honestly, this is probably the worst episode of the whole batch because I cannot remember a single thing from it. So, what did you guys think of this one?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what I say too. It's just who cares?
I'm gonna echo Patrick
Yeah.
and say that's it.
I'm getting.
Yeah, and Zyuranger filler episodes are just the most bland, forgettable garbage you could possibly get out of Super Sentai.
I mean, it's
It's
like
like
we're
nothing
going.
happens.
It's like we're going through the motions, and that's it. There's nothing to it beyond that.
There's no depth to any of these episodes. Like, I mean, at least some Jetman episodes had a point. Not all of them, but some of them
Exactly.
did.
Like Jetman had better writing than this. Like I know I don't like some of the stuff in Jetman, but Jetman at least they made an attempt to have a good story,
And the characters
and
were
they had a really good
entertaining to where-
villain.
Yeah, the villains were good. The characters were written well enough to where you just want to watch it for them. But we can't say that here. So these filler episodes are just whatever. Who cares? They don't
Nobody
matter.
cares.
Yeah.
I'm giving this one. Go ahead,
That's
Riz.
I was gonna say that's the problem here is that nobody cares about these episodes. Like they're just
And
there.
yeah, this point we're talking about is going to lead to my big rant at the end of the story arc we're about to cover.
Yeah. Like okay, so my last thing I want to say is these filler episodes from Zyuranger are just template Super Sentai episode. It goes through the motions. You have the Sentai Rangers do something. They have a conflict. They have to resolve the conflict. They fight the monster. They destroy the monster. Monster grows to be 65,000 feet tall. They use the Megazord and destroy it. That's the basic formula for a Super Sentai episode. And that's all we're getting out of Zyuranger. There's no creativity. There's no engaging story, character development, or anything.
I'm giving this episode a 2.
I mean, if we wanted
Might
to make
get this thing over with sooner than later.
yeah, I'd say
What?
Nate for the
What do you say, Anthony?
I said this thing. We might get this whole thing quicker than usual.
Yeah, I was about to say, Nate, for the next 2 episodes, we could just say the same thing because there's nothing of value
No,
in
I
them
think
either.
the next episode has some value to it, but I'll explain later. I'm giving this episode 25 at 2. It's just really forgettable.
Yeah.
Riz.
We have the 2 as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 5 because it's bland and nothing really happened. It's not terrible. It's just bland.
It's so bad that it doesn't even deserve a low score.
Heck,
Well, no,
heck,
it's not.
I remember the Mighty
Not
Morphin
bad.
adapted episode than this.
Well, okay. So here's my thing. I don't give low scores unless I actually dislike the episode. I don't dislike the episode. I just don't care about the episode. There's
I
a
guess-
difference to that. And when I
yeah, I
don't
mean-
care, I consider it bland. And if it's bland, it's not worth talking about.
I mean, bland is a 5, so makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We can move on to an episode, but it's not amazing, but I still think that it's entertaining in a very stupid way. This is called Be Careful of Shaved Ice. It's a Don and May centric kind of episode, and this is one of those episodes where if you've seen the Power Rangers episode, then you know the plot of this one because the plots are basically identical. Where Dan and May get this poison put into their shaved ice, and it turns them into these punks. It was adapted into Power Ranger punks. The only difference is that the Mighty Morphin episode came out in the pre-Green with Evil era. This is a post-Burai episode, but they're able to get away with that because remember, Burai isn't part of the main team, so he just doesn't appear in this episode at all, which is cool. I'm going to disagree with what Patrick said about how this episode doesn't have much to it because I thought that this episode was kind of hilarious. I mean, how links that the episode will take to make Don and May look like punks. I mean, May breaks a chair over Boy's head. They beat up a bunch of punks just because they're bored, and they bust up a drug deal with guns. Like, how can you not find that at least a little bit hilarious?
It's entertaining. It's fun. It's not like great story writing. It doesn't do anything for characters, but at least I can laugh at the fact that Boy got hit over the head with a chair.
You know what? I'll give this episode this credit. At least it did make me laugh a little bit.
And I'm gonna give it a 6.
I don't know if I would call this better than the Power Rangers episode because Punk Billy and Kimberly are just hilarious. How they play off of Bulk and Skull and how they just go around like.
Well, that's because Kimberly, Billy are written better than Mai and Dan, and Bulk and Skull are infinitely better than any of the kids we've seen in this damn season.
So didn't you notice that there's no Child of the Day plot in this episode? That's another reason why I liked it.
You know what?
You're
That's
right.
probably the reason why it wasn't
You know what?
was ranked so high.
You know what, Nate? You know what? I retract my 6. This will get a 7.
Just for spite.
Just for spite.
They could have forced a Child of the Day plot where like Don and May are being friends with this little boy, and then all of a sudden they get turned into punks, and they're just bullying that boy. But no, they didn't do it. The whole plot is just, oh no, Don and May have been turned into punks, and we got to save them. Like, okay, it's a filler plot, but at least there's no stupid kid involved.
See, they do have self-restraint.
It's like they know how to write a story, but they don't know how to copy and paste the process for all the episodes.
Still, I think Kimberly. I guess I would say that Kimberly and Billy are funnier as punks because they throw around a bunch of Beavis and Butthead-esque puns, like when they see the frog monster on the viewing globe. Kimberly's like, haha, that stupid frog monster, Wartsville, like. Yeah, I found this episode entertaining. That doesn't mean that it's great. It's like that episode where the kid gets turned into a giant and tries to fight the Megazord. Okay, it's probably not a good episode, but I found it entertaining, and that's why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Not saying that it's a great substantive episode, but I got entertained by it.
I'm gonna agree with Riz. Just because there's no Kid of the Week, I'm giving it a 7 for spite.
Give it a 7 as well, just for that reason alone. I was like, you know what? You're right.
But the only what would you give it, Anthony? Okay. The only
You said
other
a
thing I'll
7
say
I'll
is
give it a
that I
7
think
as well.
Miss Star Fusion said it best, and this probably is a huge statement on how Power Ranger, like, both have the same plot, but the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode tends to focus more on Billy and Kimberly as people, so it's more character driven, while Zyuranger is just having more fun with the concept. But I think that's a huge statement on how the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are just better characters.
Mm-hmm.
Seconded, yeah.
So after that, we have another filler episode before we move into the actual meat of this podcast, because there is actually some meat here. Eccentric filler episode where Bondora has this flower monster that's causing all this damage and may consider sacrificing herself. He appears again, but he only appears briefly, and he only appears transformed in this episode. To be told, you might recall I said earlier in this podcast that I watched all these episodes like a while ago. I don't remember a single thing from this episode, actually. To be honest.
I watched these episodes this morning, and I don't remember this episode.
I hated the cockroaches
wait.
in this episode.
That's the next episode, dude.
No, that's the next episode.
Okay, I will repeat that statement next episode. Then I remember nothing about this episode.
What about you,
How's
Anthony?
that?
You got anything to say?
No, not really.
If none of us remember this episode,
I'm
did
just
it
going to
even
give it a
exist?
5. I don't remember anything. It's just meh.
I'm gonna go to 5.
I'll give it an imaginary 5. Because I'm not sure this
I'll give it
episode
a
was
4.
real.
You're gonna go to 5 eye.
Yeah, 5 eye. Oh,
just
man.
don't try and square root.
So now we can move on to the big parts. The next couple of episodes are actually really, they have some bigger plot implications, or what passes for plot in this Sentai. We get a 4-part episode, which 2 of these episodes were adapted into like standard episodes of Mighty Morphin, while the other 2 were adapted into their own 2-parter. So first we get episode 28, Clay Monsters, New and Improved, where it's revealed that that Bondora is digging up this more powerful clay called Dokita. It's actually under a ramen shop that Don works for, and it allows her to create more powerful Dora monsters. The first one is the Frankenstein monster, Dora Frankie, and the episode ends with Dora Frankie overpowering the Daijujin and them needing to call Burai for help. That then leads to our next episode, a mystery, the attacking Beast King God, where much at the beginning of this episode, Geki and Burai get sent to away from Daijujin to go find a new weapon to help battle the Dokita clay creations, because they've also powered up the golems. Very similar to the actual Power Rangers episode Gung Ho, where Tommy and Jason have to go get those new weapons. Burai, he confronts Burai on why he keeps disappearing, but Burai doesn't want to tell him. They have to get through this Guardian Beast. We meet another Guardian Beast who arrives as like the guardian of the weapons. He's a white Brachiosaurus-like Guardian Beast called King Brachion. Thing to note, because this is going to be something that regularly appears, is that, and you'll know this if you've seen the Power Rangers episode, when they get the weapons, Burai transfers his dragon armor to Geki. So in this case, Burai keeps the arm cuffs. So this is the first time that Tyranno Ranger has his dragon armor form. They get the new weapons, the Thunder Slingers, which they're able to use to defeat Dora Frankie, but then Dora Frankie transforms into a more powerful zombie form, Zombie Frankie. And there's this pillar that appears in the middle of the city. we move on to the next part. Both of these episodes were adapted into Island of Illusion in Power Rangers, where revealed. So you know how Mech is basically God. Well, guess who the main villain? The person who turned Bandora is basically Satan. In fact, his name is Dai Satan. So yeah, we're literally dealing with the devil, and now in Zyuranger. Um, so Dai Satan.
Dum dum dum.
So it's revealed from Barza. Dai Satan fought against Dai Jujin many years ago when he got sent back into hell when he lost their battle. And apparently Bandora sold her soul to Dai Satan, so the devil, to become the witch she is. Most of this episode is Bandora trying to get this one child as a sacrifice to revive Dai Satan because she needs 13 children, and most of the episode is the Zyurangers trying to save her before she gets captured. And Dai Satan shows up and he powers up Zombie Frankie into his more powerful Satan Frankie, and it almost destroys Daijujin, which then leads us to our fourth and final part where Daijujin and Dragon Caesar are threatening to be melted from this acid that Dai Satan is put on them, and they have to go and unlock their Daijujin's ultimate form. And it's here that the Zyurangers actually find out about Burai. I'm going to comment more on this, but they actually get told about Daijujin's ultimate form and how he was weakened after he defeated Dai Satan from Clotho, when Clotho reveals to Burai that he only has 15 hours to live. And cut a long story short, the Zyurangers all go through like this quest to unlock Daijujin's ultimate form, and they fight, and they ultimately are able to find this seal. They unlock it, which allows Daijujin to combine with Dragon Caesar to form Jutei Daijujin, like a Dragon Sword. That defeats Satan Frankie, and then they combine with Brachion to form Ultimate Daijujin, which defeats Dai Satan, and that's how the episode ends. And I just spoke for about 5 minutes, so anybody want to give their thoughts on this four-parter first? Because I just spoke for quite a bit, so go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
Can I say something?
Okay, Anthony, go first.
Yeah, so
In what form?
that monster's very disturbing. I can see why Power Rangers decided not to use that footage in front of to the Dora zombie form.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to be sure. I didn't really hear what Riz had to say.
No, I was just asking, do you mean Dora Frankie or do you mean zombie? But you said zombie, so I
Zombie. I meant
Yeah.
zombie.
I have a question before we get into the more analysis stuff here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did we not? I thought I read somewhere that
Did.
Mighty Morphin adapted every single monster of the week into Mighty Morphin, right?
So,
But then how do we not have zombie Frankie?
But really, what actually happened was they destroyed the Frankenstein monster, but they didn't actually show the footage of him transforming. What they did was they did a quick edit of him being exploding, and then had another monster appear later on in the Eye of Illusion.
Yeah, and I remember that, but I was just surprised that they didn't link it.
His zombie and satanic forms were turned into another monster called Mutitis.
Yep, it was. They just made them two different monsters in the Power Rangers season.
Patrick, did you want to say something?
I'll let Riz go first.
I want to let Patrick go first.
Why?
Because I want entertainment, damn it.
Okay.
And there's one thing I forgot to mention in the section. We actually find out a little bit more about Burai. I don't know why Clotho is just now revealing this, and I'll talk about that in a second, but apparently the reason why Burai is in this state is because he's actually dead. So as you know, Burai was in stasis while in a cave, and while he was in stasis, the cave collapsed on top of him, and it killed him, and Clotho revived him at the request of Daijujin, which makes this episode even more confusing. But I'll bring that up in a minute. I forgot to mention that. We actually know more about why Burai is in his state. I don't know why Clotho is just now revealing this, but no, Zyuranger. Bad writing.
Okay.
Anyway, you guys
Okay,
go ahead and
Patrick,
talk.
entertain me.
Sorry
Let's
about
go.
that.
So, how do I start this? I wanted
Start at the beginning.
Yeah, I wanted to do this season because I wanted to get more concrete opinions on what it was I didn't like about it, and so far it was just, bland. Characters were written they weren't written at all. But it was this story arc that kind of got my my thoughts set, because I genuinely don't find this story arc bad, because it's actually kind of twisted even for Sentai standards. You find out that Bandora sold her soul to the devil, and she's trying to sacrifice kids to revive Satan, and it basically turns into God versus Satan. It's like a biblical thing, and you're thinking, oh man, this season must be really dark and twisted and everything. But no, it's the most childish Sentai we've ever watched. But
Yeah.
But they tried to write this arc as a reflection on their journey up to this point, because they did this thing at the very end where they reached that altar where they were told to scream into the heavens what they were the warrior of. And in other Sentais, this would be like they would reflect on moments from like the beginning of the season up until now that would showcase, what their role on the team was. But no, they reflected the things that happened 5 minutes ago. like who was it? It was Boy, the Warrior of Hope. Yeah, you look back to a moment 5 minutes ago when you told 5 kids who are on the ground dying to don't give up. That's all it takes for you to be a warrior of hope? Are you kidding me?
Patrick, hang on. I gotta make this comment real quick.
Go for it.
Danny from Wild Force is written better than Boy.
Yeah.
Who?
Who?
No, I'm not saying because I met him. I'm saying it because Danny's character also says, "Never give up, don't lose hope." But it actually meant something there, despite how much I trolled this character. But in this case, it's a throwaway line that's getting all this attention like 5 minutes later for no reason.
I know.
At least Danny, for all his faults as a character. By the way, Zach Goodman's a really great guy. I love him to death. But freaking just everything about Boy's thing there was the last minute kind of save. Like, oh yeah, we need to make him an avatar of hope or whatever. Let's have him reflect on something from 5 minutes ago. But Danny has been saying from the beginning, episode 1 of Wild Force, never give up, never give up. And while I don't like that saying all that much because it irritated me in Wild Force, the amount of times they said it and the frequency they said it at least he had a consistent thing that he was known for. Before the little thing happened here, Pat, like, what do we know Boy for? What was his... Who was this guy, Like, there's nothing.
Exactly. Like, you look at all of these characters, and, like, May is the warrior of love because she's the girl. Sure. Boy is the warrior of hope because shut up. Goshi is the warrior of wisdom. That one actually makes sense. Because
Yeah, they tried to make been trying to make Goshi had to be the
Yeah,
smartest.
because
of
he
the
has
guys,
been,
so I
he
can
has shown
take
to be more
wisdom.
tactical. Dan being the warrior of courage is just an insult to us viewers. There's nothing courageous about this guy.
Well, the way I read that was Dan's the avatar of courage. I keep saying avatar. I don't know why. It just seems to flow better. Live with it. But Dan's courage is being mistaken for his stupidity.
Exactly. Because
You can't say
No,
we've
but-
had
warrior of
episodes in the
stupidity.
past where he ran out like a coward or something a few times.
Yeah,
There's nothing
Yeah.
courageous about this doofus.
Geki's more courageous than him.
Exactly. And Burai being power and Geki being justice is just whatever. But they're trying to pass this off as a grand moment. When up to this point, like you said a few minutes ago, Riz, we know nothing about these people. This just feels like
Even
insulting.
Burai.
Yeah,
What
like
do we know
even
about Burai?
like this whole moment just feels like it's just a microcosm of everything that I don't like about this season. It's just one note, rushed bullcrap that means nothing. Like
Brian Geki statements really annoyed me. Like, I kind of get. I probably am willing to give May, Boy, and Don a little bit more of a free pass. I guess maybe not that much. Now that you guys have pointed it out, but
That's putting it
And
mildly.
Patrick, air high five
But-
across the state line.
yeah, woo.
Our hands will meet in Louisiana.
Geki and Burai, the same power and justice, just kind of annoyed me because I don't even know how you could say that like what Burai did led him to be
That
like
was
the warrior
just-
of power.
That's,
I mean, he is the
it's just
strongest,
the
but
most
that's it.
stereotypically bland titles you can give people.
Well, it's stereotypical for the right to be power.
Couldn't you give Burai like the warrior of passion or something because of like how passionate he's been with like what he wanted to do and like or hell, you could even do something where he wants to make amends for what he did when he was evil and now he's like
Yeah.
you could say warrior of redemption.
Yeah, I was just
or
thinking
atonement or something.
Yeah,
like
because that actually would have been
a
his
lot better.
character. But like this whole segment right here just agitated me so much when I was watching it again because they try to make it so grand and there's just nothing to it. But then I also want to back up to Clotho's explanation because there's a line in here that made me laugh. Clotho is like, well then why am I dead if these rocks fell on me? Because Daijujin wanted me to revive you so we can have Dragon Caesar accessible to create Ultimate Daijujin.
This is exactly what I was going to bring up.
Why did you tell Geki to kill him?
Jujin was ordering you to kill him.
Oh my god. This literally breaks.
Kill him,
Me
Geki.
too.
Why? I wanted him to be alive, but I don't now. What?
It's like, but you already let him die once, right? And it's like, shut up.
I wanted him to be brought back to life so I could kill him again. What? Like I mentioned at the start of the season, Daijujin is an idiot.
Yeah.
The biggest.
I will say this, and Nate and Nancy can back me up here. The equivalent of Daijujin in the audio drama is way better than this.
Yes,
What is-
I will definitely.
Does the Dino Megazord have a personality in that?
Each Zord has their own personality.
Oh, so they take the Guardian Beast concept and improve on it. Cool, I like that for Mighty Morphin.
Now, I do want to say this about this episode. Like Patrick said, I feel like it's a mixed bag with how they get Ultimate Daijujin. But something that I do want to say, I still think that this is a little bit better than Island of Illusion because here's the thing. So this episode, it's a pretty standard story, and it has some great elements. It's really undermined by all the bad writing that came out before. But if we look at this for what it is by itself without taking out all the bad writing that came before. It's watchable, passable episode, and it has a standard plot where the Zyurangers mechs are damaged and they need to go on a quest to upgrade their arsenal. They go through the quest, they get the upgrade. But in the case of the Power Rangers episode, so we have the first of all, them going to the Island of Illusion, it's not some quest that Zordon sends them on. It's something that Rita sends them to as their as a plan to destroy the Rangers. The second part is just a big repetitive clip show where Rita or Goldar or someone shows up and says, "Hey, place Ranger's name here. You suck." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I do suck." And then the short dude comes out and says, "No, you don't suck. And remember this moment where you didn't suck." And then they remember that moment where they didn't suck. It's like, "Oh yeah, I don't suck. Okay, everything's happy."
That's pretty much what happened.
The only two ones that had anything vaguely resembling a character deep dive is Billy being upset that he can't figure things out when he's so intelligent. Okay, I can do with that. And Jason being told that he's a terrible leader because he led them in situation. Okay, I can do that. But there's other ones like Kimberly seeing an illusion of Bulk and Skull being all nice. Okay, that's funny, but how does that make Kimberly freak out? And I know she's like, "Oh, if Rita can make them do that, then what she can do to me?" But it's stupid.
That is, yeah.
And then
About it is kind of. I can try to make an explanation. It still comes sound stupid regardless of what I say, but I will try to explain it the best way I can. I think what they were trying to do was make that Kimberly was freaked out because she assumed that, oh, if she can make like some idiots like Bulk and Skull like actually all nice and stuff like that, then like she can achieve anything as far as like, you know, her magic can go. But it's like even still, it doesn't work because like she could do this regardless, so it doesn't matter. You're freaking out over this, but it's like as she had actually maybe got them to kill each other, maybe that would have been like, oh wow, that would have been more, impactful. But no, you.
But then to kind of continue on with the episode, they get through all these trials, then they leave, and then, all of a sudden, without any build-up or any establishment, have the ability to combine all their Zords to form the Ultra Zord, except, wait a minute, the Ultra Zord first appeared in the previous episode, undermining this epic debut.
You got so loud all of a sudden. Oh my god, my ears.
Sorry, that just really frustrated me.
I can tell.
I was thinking about this while you're going on that tangent. Another thing about this arc, going back to one of the very first points I made about Zyuranger, about everything being spoon-fed to them. They get sent to this mystical land, and they get told to go in that direction to find these new weapons. They find the new weapons that, for some reason, work on the new golems when all their other weapons just don't. No explanation as to why that makes sense. And then, in his big book of perfect timed information, they just like, oh, this is Dice Satan, and this is what he's doing, and this is what she's doing, and this is what you need to do to stop it. And then they just like go that way and find this shrine, and the shrine tells them exactly what they need to do, and it just conveniently unlocks the ultimate form. Like the convenience train just doesn't stop with this show. It never feels like these guys earn anything, and it's gotten exhausting.
Yeah, but I still think Ultimate Daijujin feels earned a bit slightly more than the Ultra Zord, since in Power Rangers it just comes out of nowhere, while here there's at least some build-up and they went on a quest to do it. I get what you're saying, that it's all convenient, but I still think it's just slightly a little bit more earned than
Yeah, that's like one of the few things Zyuranger does better than Mighty Morphin.
That list is so short.
Yeah, I think I've hit on all the points I needed to hit on. You can go,
Patrick,
Riz.
Patrick, you said everything I really wanted to get onto anyway.
Oh, did I?
Lord.
It's fine.
And I'm sorry.
That's how I wanted you to do it.
I'm sorry. I got a bit closer to my mic. It's just I don't understand why they had to put that episode, that filler episode that debuts the Ultra Zord before they did Island of Illusion.
Oh, and Mighty Morphin,
Just
you
really
mean?
annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't get it. Like, it made sense here in Zyuranger, and it was fine. I don't know. The only things that really kind of I want to harp on a little bit is it's so creepy how it's always children involved in these plots somehow. Why can't we have a plot without the kids involved and just do something that's relevant to the characters?
I mean, I read a blog a while back that unfortunately most people can't read anymore. Now, the blog itself was mostly about, just the rough time that Super Sentai was going through before, which was around this time actually. And, they apparently said that the head writer of this Sentai, and I brought him up, Nobu. His name really escapes me because he's not good enough of a Sentai writer for me to remember his name. But all that, but like the guy who wrote the blog said that like apparently the writer had like interest in like wanting to appeal to like smaller children, and that's why he included all the child of the day plots. I hope that's what it meant, because like the guy, and I spoke with the guy who wrote the blog himself. He's a really nice guy, but he apparently worded it as if like the writer had like an interest in children or something, which I really hope that's not. He doesn't mean that in a really bad way, but I guess he was just desperate to really appeal to children, so that's why we had all these children of the day plots, if that makes sense.
That makes it feels kind of awkward now.
I mean, it feels forced. Like if the point was to write it in a way to where the kids could relate and feel like intensity because this could happen to them, then sure. But at the same time, at the neglect of the main characters that we're following, I know. Because I said this at one point in time, and I don't remember where, but Gekiranger had a similar approach to this, where the yokai, like, they ate children. That was like their substance that they needed. And so the Gekiranger had to save kidnapped children, but the kids were never at the forefront of those plots. They were just like background things that as soon as they were freed, they ran off screen and they were not in the episodes anymore. That's how this should have been handled in every episode. But the kids are the main characters. Yeah, that's one of many reasons why Gekiranger. Yeah, it's one of many reasons why Gekiranger is better. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the kids just continuously take the forefront, I hate that.
What do we think of the before we move on to the just giving this just rating, and then we move on to one last episode? What do we think of Ultimate Daijujin? Because this is like one of our first like big final mechs. What do we think of that?
I thought it was well done. I mean, there's nothing. It's Titanus. I mean, I love Titanus growing up. It's a great mech. It was a great first carrier Zord type thing for an Ultra Zord combination. So literally nothing about it can be negative to me.
The thing I've always loved about this form was that this attack is named Grand Banisher, which is kind of cool, but it's literally just fire all the weapons, and I like that.
Hey, so I don't remember the character or what TV show it's in, but I get the vibe of like this really happy, giddy person who's given a console with all the buttons, and they're told press all the buttons at the same time. They get super excited.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just released everything.
Because they cut to the shot of him shooting everything, and it was just rockets flying in every direction.
And rockets and lasers and maybe bullets, honestly. I don't even know, man.
It's just so chaotic, and I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But no, King Brachion and the Ultimate Daijujin, I have zero complaints about it. You can't hate it. It's the OG
Yeah.
from our
Definitely not.
childhood, you know?
Also, a little bit of a fun fact here. I found this out. I actually found this on a random YouTube video. We also see Jutei Daijujin, which is the equivalent of the Mega Dragon Zord, which, so technically it appears a lot from this point forward because it has to be part of the Ultimate Daijujin, but we rarely see Jutei Daijujin fight by itself. Like, I think we're only going to see it fight like 2 more times. Apparently, from behind the scenes, that was because that mech is like very top heavy, and I mean that because and the shoulders were like, they were causing a lot of pain for the suit actors, so they could rarely use that form, which is why every time you see Ultimate Daijujin, it's usually the toy. So
yeah.
Just to move on to this. Like I said, this 4-parter was a mixed bag. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 because there's some good moments, but unfortunately, if you put it in the context with the rest of the series, there's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that irritates me so much is that the actual storyline for this 4-parter is genuinely one of the best parts of Zyuranger, but it's the build up to it and like kind of the quote unquote payoff that they try to push at the end of it that just sours the whole deal. So I think a 6 is pretty fair.
I agree. I think the 6 is pretty fair.
I'm gonna be a bit nicer than that and give it a 7.
Fair.
This is, it's a mixed bag. There are things I didn't like. There are things that I liked, and honestly, nothing in here was extremely bad. Like, I know me and Patrick harped a lot about the 5 moral compass things that they were trying to emulate at one point, but in the grand scheme of Zyuranger, it's still not that big of a deal to me. Like, it's bad storytelling, obviously, but I mean, it's just bland overall. There's nothing that makes me want to go raids about how much I hate Zan and Gekiranger here. You know, it's not that bad, or it's not like anything amazing like Senkin or Gokai or something. It's just run-of-the-mill Sentai. And I know I say that a lot, but I truly mean it for this season. It's just run-of-the-mill Sentai.
Well, to kind of wrap up, we got one last episode, which is kind of an epilogue to the previous story arc. It's a Geki-centric episode, and believe it or not, I can actually say that without having to put up air quotes. This episode, pretty much. So in this episode, Geki is all, he's concerned about losing Burai because of, the Zyurangers now know what Burai is going through. And Bandura manipulates him by telling him that this latest monster can save Burai, so he doesn't want to destroy it. And Geki is just, he's completely mortified by it. But then Goshi restores his fighting spirit by disguising himself as this warrior and attacking Geki. And Geki regains his fighting spirit by vowing that he'll find a way to save his brother. Burai only appears briefly. He never transforms. He only appears at the beginning in a dream, and then at the end in a little vision for Geki. What did you guys think of this episode? I actually have some.
I'm gonna go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is, in my opinion, too little too late. Like, my biggest complaint about this set of episodes is that Geki should have been clued into his brother's fate like 7 episodes ago.
Mhm.
Because Geki should have been wondering, why does my brother only come out to play when we need a Dragon Sword? Why doesn't he come hang out with me? Why doesn't he come spend time with us? Like, it's just awkward to me because you go from having this guy that's trying to kill you to being your brother to being a good guy to not being around ever unless you need help to save your ass. It's just it's so awkward, and I don't understand why it took them this long for Geki to be clued in about his brother's fate. And like this could have happened a long time ago, and we could have had a couple of episodes between when this podcast batch began until now, with the Geki and them doing something to try and help Burai, to try and help him beat the clock, to break the curse, to do something, like
Too
it,
little,
this,
too late.
this this just feels like it's too little, too late.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and I mean, I'm certain. Well, okay, I'm not certain because it's Zyuranger we're talking about, but I'm hopeful that in our next batch of episodes, they do try to effect some kind of way to save Burai, and they spend some time deliberating on a solution, and not do more. Oh, hi, random kid that I'm randomly friends with. What's your deal today?
What's your issue for the week?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of how Geki handled it in this episode, though.
no, Geki. I can't curse on this podcast, so I'm not going to say it. But
This is the
He's being
first.
stupid.
Yeah, this is the first instance of the terrible writing that Geki's going to be going through over the next 7-8 episodes. Because how they write him handling this entire situation is just terrible.
it is, and the entire idea that Gosi had to fake an attack to get to get Geki to get his spirit back.
Mhm.
It does two things. On the plus side, it gives Gosi an actual reason to be the wisdom guy.
Exactly. That's why he was the only one I agreed with.
But on the flip side of that, Geki gave up too quickly. Like, what the hell, man?
Can't have any long character arcs in this show. God dang it!
It just it could have we could have had more. Like they just really dropped the ball on the writing here.
Oh yeah, I mean, the stupid thing is that Geki is going to sort of get a character arc going forward until the final uh Burai arc ends.
Yeah.
And Nate and Anthony can kind of back me up on this. I think it regresses his character somehow.
I think it's been a while since I've seen this, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I honestly think it regresses him. So, I mean, you'll see when we get to the next batch of episodes, but the fact that this is the only real character arc we're going to get and it makes a character worse.
I just want
Yeah.
to add some insult to injury to what Riz has to say. We've been talking about how Zyuranger really brings has an emphasis on mythology. Here, so like I said, the plot of this episode is that Andorra is tricking Geki into thinking that the monster could heal Burai, and the monster is called Dora Narcissus. So I guess it's based on a daffodil, kind of. I guess it kind of brings in the mythology of Narcissus, but why couldn't you So it turns out that it's just a lie, that it just can't heal, but you have had a monster that's based on a mythological creature that actually has powers that can heal, Phoenix, because Phoenix tears have healing powers. The bird called the Caladrius, which is said to be able to cure sickness, and or a unicorn, because I've heard that like unicorns, like their horns have the ability to heal. Like, I don't know. I feel like this episode could have been a lot more powerful if the monster theoretically could heal Burai, and Geki has to make that decision, as opposed to just this where Geki realizes that the monster can't heal Burai and he just has to destroy it. Like, I don't know. It would have been a lot more powerful if the monster had the theoretical ability to heal
Could
Burai.
actually heal.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it actually would have actually put a pretty heavy decision on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But
It would have.
But yeah,
But
There's like the show is afraid to like go the extra step to be like more. What's the word for it? I guess take risks. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think again, this is too little, too late. But also, like, it just feels like bad writing overall. Like this entire thing.
And this is going back to the point of why this is the Sentai I hate the most. All of this dead space that we could have had good, setting up for some subplots, given the characters any depth, any backstory, and it's just wasted potential from top to bottom. And that's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy.
But see, the problem that I have is, yeah, there's wasted potential, you're saying, but I don't even see the potential with these characters. There's nothing. They're blank slates.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they had given these characters any depth, then there could be potential from that depth that they give.
But the
they don't
potential
even.
could have led to another Gekiranger.
It could have, but we don't know.
Right,
At
but
least, at least give us something that we could look at and see. Because, like I said, these guys have come from a time and a world that just doesn't exist anymore, and I would like to see how they were back then and what their kingdoms were like, and how this, like, just something. But
I mean, yeah, but like,
because I mean, we've talked about this, that the Sentais of this era don't write the way that the Sentais of the current era do. Like, we compared Jetman to Shinkenger and how Shinkenger makes good use of its filler episodes.
Yeah.
But Jetman didn't really. But at least Jetman established the characters in a way to where the filler episodes could have purpose, and it made the story arcs that Jetman did have some decent payoff. But
I'm gonna summarize your Jetman thing real quick into a simple sentence. At least we felt something for the Jetman characters.
Yeah. And it didn't lead to as much as it probably could have, but at least it led to something.
Yeah,
giving us any depth to these characters would greatly help the story's plot and just overall feel. And that's what I mean about wasted potential, is that, I mean, given the setup for this show, with them being warriors from a lost time and this whole God versus Satan thing, they could have done something pretty intense with this, but they didn't even try.
They could have done something similar to what King Oats are doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. With each of them being from a different kingdom, they didn't necessarily see eye to eye. Back then, they had grudges with each other because their kingdoms maybe didn't agree with each other.
Yeah, like maybe Ghosty and Geki's kingdoms are mortal enemies. We don't.
Yeah,
know.
And they're stern towards one another because of that, and they have to work through that. But no, they're just all happy-go-lucky. They don't seem to miss the time period and the families and the people that they left behind, and they just knew how to drive motorcycles 5 minutes after waking up, and there's just nothing. It's just everything is spoon-fed to you and to them instantly, and you just run with it. And
see,
I hate this.
I wish I could find a way to do research into more about what the writers were thinking at that point in time when they were doing Zyuranger.
I would too.
Because I'm genuinely curious. Did they have pressure from the parent company? Did somebody tell them they have to include a child in every episode for the plot?
That,
Like, I want to know where that came from.
that might have been
Like
just
a mandate.
something that the head writer was interested in, honestly.
Because
I don't think so, because
if that was the case, then they really should have paid attention to the reception Jetman got, and then tried to write the season more like that.
no, yeah, exactly. That's why I'm thinking it's not the head writer that dictated this, because any other head writer, I think, would not have been so cookie cutter. Here's the episode every week. Like we can walk into it knowing what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a writer who had some freedom, yeah, you would have had some kids, and you'd probably know the kids' names, and you know a little bit about the kids, and they'd actually have a relationship with the Zyuranger. If they were trying to do like if there's an actual story behind what the writer was doing. But here it feels to me like somebody higher up said, "No, this is the formula. Go do it. Make it work. This will make us a lot of money because the kids will see themselves on TV and they're gonna get excited and blah 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 whatever." But I just I don't think this is something in the writing team's plan. I think this is something they were forced to do by someone higher up.
And then maybe that's why Ranger went back to the more, properly story driven with a cast that actually had some characterization, because they realized that this was a mistake.
You didn't like Ranger though,
Yeah.
Patrick.
I don't like Ranger, but at least it had something to it. Granted, most of it went to Zyuranger, but at least at least it had a plot, villains that had character, and a core 5 team that had personalities. I don't have to like them, but it was there.
I hate the villains outfits so much. I hate them so much.
But what they achieved here with Zyuranger is nothing short of bland, boring, stereotypical Super Sentai content with no depth.
Yeah, like I think I just came up with the best way to describe it. People keep saying that Tokusatsu is just a big toy commercial, but this season really feels like that it's just trying to be that and nothing else.
It's not trying to be a toy commercial at the heart of it.
It's not.
Yes, the toy advertisement's a big part of it.
Yeah, but this season feels like it's trying to be a toy commercial.
No, it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like somebody higher up wants to try and connect to the kids more. And that makes me wonder, while Jetman was wildly successful at the time, were they losing the children demographic and gaining more of an adult demographic that they didn't want? And they were trying to rectify that in this season by trying to lure the kids back.
Possibly.
I'm genuinely curious about that.
That's actually an interesting thing to think about.
Because think about it.
Because I mean, even looking into Ranger, Gekiranger was a kid.
Yeah.
So they made our first kid ranger in the next, yeah.
Because they're trying so hard to attract the kids back, and so you have Kiba Ranger, is it?
Yeah.
And then you have King Ranger 2 seasons later. I think that's also a kid, like a teenager.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, he's not an adult. Yeah, sort of.
I know it's complicated. I've kind of spoiled myself on it a little bit, but
yeah,
he sucks either way.
No, I'm trying to think. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know anything about Sentai before Jetman and all that much detail, but what I've read and what me and Nate talked about, especially when we're at Ranger Stop, the way the older Sentai sounded to me is that they're more or less adults that are the Sentai. And they're like military figures, they're you know, kings or queens or whatever, like from different planets, but they're not. It's not like Mighty Morphin where you have these teenagers in school that we as the kids can relate to. When I watched Mighty Morphin, I could kind of relate to the fact that okay, these five nerds are in school. I'm in school. I get it, but maybe I wouldn't care as much if the Mighty Morphin group were militant, like if they were from the army or the
I
navy
mean, the
or
one
something.
exception is
Would I have vibed with
Turbo Ranger, where they're all high school students.
But that's the point. They're still in school. We can
Yeah.
relate to that. Regardless of like what grade they're in, even a 5-year-old can understand, okay, Jason is clearly older than me, but he's in school. He has a principal. I have a principal. He has a teacher. I have a teacher. I can understand what's going on here. And he has a superpower thing on the side that's pretty cool, and that's entertaining, and I like that. But end of the day, I can see myself a little bit in a character like Jason or Trini or whoever. But if we're talking about these more adult themed things like last season with Jetman, it was militant, these people who were like, farmers and rich people and whatever, joining the military to help them take down the enemy. Me as a kid, I'll think, okay, that's fine, but I don't really care about these characters because I can't relate to them. So I'm kind of wondering, was there an attempt here with Zyuranger to try and recaptivate the children audience? Because that's where the toy making is for, like, the toy money making is for them. Because I don't think the adults back then would have been that as interested in buying the toys as we are today.
I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why, Mega Ranger Sentai that really helped, make Sentai really popular for a while. Because Mega Ranger, they're high school students too.
Right.
Mhm.
And like it just seems like they tried different things until they got that formula.
That is an
Sorry to
interesting
cut
way
you
to
off.
that is an interesting way to look at it.
It's the only way I can justify any of this.
Yes, but I think they were just trying way too hard with the children.
They did. They went to one extreme.
Mm-hmm.
They went from one extreme to the other extreme. They went from all adults, all super serious military people that we don't understand as kids to here are all these kids to finally a little bit of a balance with Zyuranger. And I know Patrick didn't like the characters, but at least there was a way to balance the
Yeah.
adults and its kids a little bit with Kiba Ranger.
And then
Yeah,
thankfully
there
in
was.
the
And
third Sentai that this writer would do, Kaku Ranger, he actually managed to do the kid theme pretty well. Third time's the charm, I guess.
Yeah.
there's a kid in
I mean,
Kaku.
they're
No,
go ahead.
like I
Patrick.
said, the yokai ate children. That was like their food source.
Oh,
So they
okay.
kidnapped kids all the time, and the Kaku Ranger had to save them, but they were never in the forefront.
No.
So
Right. And I think that's when they started to try different tactics. Because I think they tried bringing the kid, then they tried to do something a little bit more serious to Kaku Ranger. From what I'm hearing, I haven't seen Kaku yet. I've heard a little bit here and there. But from all I've heard, Kaku Ranger is a bit more serious,
Second
right?
half.
mostly, yeah, second half is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they
goofy
tried
the
to do
first.
something a bit more serious. Then they
Yeah.
tried a kid thing again with King Ranger. Then they try a parody because they don't know what else to do with themselves.
And that actually works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just a different way to look at it, Pat. And I think you're right. This is very interesting.
What do we want to?
It's a shame that finding It's just a shame that finding that kind of information is like next to impossible.
You can't find it. There's no way.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm almost tempted to ask some other content creators that we know and see if they have any insight. Because I know some other content creators that might have some insight, but I don't know who.
I mean,
So
you
if
can
you're
always ask
listening to this
around.
and you have any insight on what the heck they were doing back then, please let me know, because I'm deadly curious right now.
What do we want to give the? We kind of trailed off subject, but what do we want to give this Geki Zyuranger episode?
5.
I'm gonna give it a 5 too.
5.
5.
So kind of already we kind of veered into a really deep dive about Zyuranger. We don't really need to talk about the villains that much because aside from Dai Satan showing up, there's not much.
No.
The only thing I want to say about the villains, real quick, when Bandora lost her eyesight and she went blind and she had the blood coming down her face, that was really creepy.
Yeah, it was.
Like, that's something straight out of a horror kind of thing, not a
Sentai
Sentai.
that's trying to appeal to
That's what I'm saying.
kids.
Why is it? I know why. I know that scene comes from the most childish Sentai.
Right, like, I don't understand.
Oh,
And
boy.
it completely defeats my argument I made for the last 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, that scene kind of stuck out to me a little bit. Because I was trying to think.
It's like what the nostalgia critic said. No, go ahead. Sorry, Riz.
I was thinking about. I was gonna say, it sticks out in my mind because we didn't have it in Mighty Morphin, and to see Bandora with blood coming down her face, I never, in the 30 years, would have ever thought that would be a thing I'd see. But no, the villains are pretty much the same from before. There's nothing else to talk about.
It's like what the nostalgia critic said back in the day. For kids. That whole thing. So.
Yeah, for kids.
So, I guess, Riz, you said that you, before we started recording, you mentioned something about character rankings, so we can just go into the character rankings now. How would you rank the Zyurangers? And, of course, you're gonna...
Burai top, followed by my boy and Dan, and Gosi, followed by Geki. Geki loses some points in my book because of how long it took him to figure out that he has a brother after he found out he has a brother. It's like he forgot he had a brother, and then he remembered, and he's like, oh yeah, I have a brother.
What a fantastic way to word that thought.
All right, what about Patrick and Anthony?
For me, it's gonna be Burai, obviously at top. Goshi. I want to put Geki third, but it's like Riz said, he lost some points for me too because I'm like, So, but I'll still make him my third anyway because he's still like the only one out of the three I just mentioned to still have character. Then it's May. Then it's Boy, and lastly Dawn.
I want to clarify real quick. I said Burai top, followed by a tie with my boy Dan and Gosi.
Right.
Okay.
I just want to clarify.
Okay.
There is a tie. Because they're all bland with no story.
Obviously.
So they have nothing to distinguish them from being better or worse than each other, except for the fact that Geki is an idiot and he can't figure out if he has a brother.
I'm actually going to be a bit of a contrarian here. I'm going to put Goshi at the top.
Really?
I can actually see that from you. I understand that. I get it.
Because, I mean, it feels like he's the only one here. I mean, Burai is going to be number 2, but the reason he's not at number 1 is because he really hasn't been around enough.
Yeah.
But Goshi also is the only one whose personality is really distinguishable at this point and isn't a pain in my rear end like Geki is. But I'd probably put Geki at 3 just because, like Anthony said, the others are just cardboard cutouts. They don't have anything to them. So Geki's kind of at 3rd by default.
But my contention there, Pat, is Geki is also a cardboard cutout who's an idiot.
Oh no, he'll be dropping down the list when we get to the next batch of episodes, but we haven't gotten there yet. So
Yeah.
I'm probably going to put I'm going to put Burai as number 1. I still think that, especially at the end of his Sentai, I'm still going to say that Burai is at least an A tier 6th. I'm going to put Goshi next. Honestly, I would honestly say that Goshi is like a B tier Black Ranger, even at the end of this. Because, okay, there's deeper Black Ranger characters, but I don't think he's a bad character. Just poor. I don't know. He's like Anthony's guy, Soji from Kyoryu. He would be a lot better if they actually focused on him. But for what we get, I mean, you got to enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what he does, he can't live up to the hype that came before him.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He has to
I would put May after that. I don't know. May is just someone that I can't hate. She's just adorable. She's a C tier pink. She's not bad. She's not good. Boy is just forgettable. P's D tier. I put him after May. Honestly, I thought really highly more of Geki when I originally watched this, but I'm gonna put Geki at number 5 just because. Yeah, the more I listen to what Patrick has to say and what you guys have to say, I realize, yeah, this guy kind of sucks. He's going to be D tier for me, and then it's Don at the end. Don is an F tier blue. I'm sorry.
Okay, I just don't understand. So I thought I understood why we hated Dan after the first podcast we did. But going forward, the last 20 or so episodes or whatever we've done, Dan hasn't done anything that's like awful. He just kind
He
of
hasn't done anything for me
there.
to forget the annoying stuff that he's done in the past.
But the annoying stuff he did in the past was like so short-lived that it barely
And
matters.
I guess, but even then, I mean,
like I just don't understand the hate because like to me, Dan, yeah, he was annoying in the beginning, but he faded into the background. He's barely even a character nowadays.
I look at it like this: we buried him at the start of the season, and then forgot about him too much to go dig him out.
fair enough.
So he's just stuck down there.
I mean, but I want to dug him up to put him in a tie with
Maybe he
the
just
other
stayed
idiot.
dead, or maybe he just maybe he just remembered that he died in Jetman and then just went back to being dead.
I mean, maybe, but like he doesn't do anything to make him be hated. Like when you tell me he's the most hated of the group, he had to have done something to
Sure,
earn
he's
that.
not as annoying as
But
other person. I'm not going to mention any names, but
that guy sucks.
okay. I don't know. Maybe I just remember him being a lot more annoying last time, but even if
I mean, maybe last time he was more annoying, but like watching it right now, like do you honestly have an instance in the last 20 episodes that you can point to that makes you think Dan is the worst of the 6?
well, no, but none of these characters are really that interesting.
Okay,
so by
then.
default, he's just
I don't
bad because
understand
he's
your
done
point.
some bad stuff in the past.
Yes, but he has to do some like he kind of redeemed himself in my eyes by not doing anything either way.
Yes.
He
What
dug
a
himself out the
what
hole
a
by
s-
doing
what a
nothing.
He's doing
what a
nothing. He's
sentence!
just okay by default.
What a sentence that was. He redeemed himself by
Do
doing
you have
nothing.
any closing thoughts?
So he basically lets the magic conch from SpongeBob. He lets the magic conch from SpongeBob, basically.
Yeah, do nothing. The conch
Show
has
has spoken.
But like, okay, but hear me out, dude. Like, Dan did some crappy stuff in the beginning. I get it. But then he lost all personality, and he just kind of existed in the background and morphed when
Yes, I
he
mean,
needed
I'm
to
not
morph,
saying
and
that
that was
he's one of
it.
the worst Sentai Rangers ever. He's just kind of.
But you're putting him in the F tier, and that indicates that he's as bad as
Yeah, I
other
guess.
F tier
Guess he's
characters that
the
we're not going
worst
to name because
Sentai
they'll
Blue that I've
trigger
known. I mean,
you.
I've seen quite a few Sentai. Probably the most. I've seen the most in this podcast. I don't mean to brag about that, but like, yeah, I mean, there's not like.
Yeah. But is he actually worthy of being F tier? Because it's okay to
Maybe
not
I
have
guess
him
at
being an F
best.
tier.
Okay,
I would say compared to other blues I've seen, I would put him down there.
Okay, he's
In an F tier?
Yeah. Okay, him and
Oh,
O
Blue was
Blue
bad.
are terrible.
I would probably.
Yeah, O Blue is really bad.
I mean, if you, my honest opinion is Dan, along with Boy, belong in D tier.
I could see justification to put him in D tier. I mean, now to clarify, Don is not the worst Blue Ranger ever in any show. That's Dax from Operation Overdrive, no questions asked. But no, yeah, but
Well,
even
no,
in
I'm talking about
Sentai,
Sentai
like I
only,
guess
though.
he's technically the worst Blue that I've seen. But yeah,
Yeah. But see, then that tells me that across all Sentai, there's not a Blue
no,
that you want to punch in the face.
there's a couple of other Rangers of colors that I want to punch in the face, and I'm not talking about the one that you're talking about, Riz. There's probably a few others, but
No, I know. I know there's others that we want to punch in the face. There's a couple of others I want to punch in the face. But when I think of F tier, I think about characters like He Who Will Not Be Named because I really, 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 really don't like him, and other characters who I also want to punch in the face. I don't stand in the face. I just don't like him. He's boring. That's it.
I mean, that can be seen as F tier material depending on who you're talking to.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, he's just there. He doesn't see the way I define F tier is they have to be egregiously bad to the point where you can't stand their existence. But nothing y'all have said have told me that he's that bad. Yeah, I know he's bad, but he's not like F tier bad. But I guess I just view F tier a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, I would put F tier as characters that are egregiously bad and or completely forgettable. Like Dan he might as well just be a cardboard cutout that you just sit on the stage and he just stands there and does nothing.
mm-hmm.
All he did is say Dino Buckler. That's all he did.
If that's the way I describe you, then you're F tier because you
Yeah.
don't even have a character at that point. So why would I rank you any
I still have
higher
a
than
few
that?
Sentai I need to watch, but I'm hoping to have seen like every Sentai all the way through in like maybe 2 or 3 years. So I don't know. Maybe I'll find someone worse, but you guys know when that time comes.
Yeah, because my list of people I want to punch is Dan,
Yeah.
the guy from Nin Ninja, the red.
Yeah.
I think his name is Takahata or something. I want to punch those two. Lucky, every now and then I want to punch him, but it's not like a violent. I want to punch him. It's just more of a dude setup. And I think Anthony can understand what I'm trying to get at there with that one.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, like not a ton of people I really want to punch in the face.
Do we have any closing thoughts regarding Zyuranger before we wrap up here, guys?
Yep.
What's that?
I have one closing thought on Zyuranger. Our analysis of Zyuranger is more detailed than anything the writers put into Zyuranger.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like because we're actually trying.
And I know that everyone wants to ask
Yeah.
a question. How much more of Zyuranger do we have? Well, thankfully, we're only going to be doing 2 more podcasts of Zyuranger. We're going to be doing this one, and then we've decided we don't want to give the in-game arc the honor of giving it its own podcast. We're just going to tack it on to another podcast. Only 2 more Zyuranger reviews. So I know everyone's excited to be done with that, because then we get to move on to some actually good Sentais. So
We get to move on to the audio drama, which I'm really excited to hear Patrick talk about.
Why me specifically?
Because Anthony and me and Nate have already listened to some of it.
Oh, okay.
We're caught up.
Yeah, me and Anthony are caught up. Nate's almost done with season 1. You've seen nothing so far, so I'm excited to hear what you think.
were we going to do all 3 seasons or just seasons 1 and 2? Because I don't think they're done with season 3 yet.
We're just doing season 1 and 2. We'll do season 3 whenever they're done.
Yeah.
That is our schedule, guys. Next time we're going to be doing Zyuranger 34 through 42. And no, 33 through 42. And then we're going to be doing one final one where we basically do 43 all the way to episode 50, where everything just wraps up. And then we'll be done with this Sentai. This was Patrick's idea. I just want everybody to be clear. This was Patrick's idea to have us do this Sentai. So, but anyway.
I mean, I'm being reassured, so it was worth it.
Meanwhile, Anthony's in the doghouse.
Wait, what?
Meanwhile, you're in the doghouse for suggesting Gekiranger.
Listen, you're not gonna keep bugging me this forever now. I will start to get annoyed with you now. It's just like, no, stop doing this to me.
Okay, I hope that, I guarantee that Riz will be able to like Gingaman or Time Ranger him and he can forget all about it. Not all about it, but
He won't forget. He's not gonna forget this. He's gonna be old as I don't know what. So like literally like decrepit. He's like, Gekiranger, John.
Anyway, with
that'll be Riz's dying breath. I hate Jan, and then he's gone.
Anyway,
forget.
Anyway, like I said, that's our schedule. We're going to be wrapping up Zyuranger in 2 podcasts. After that, we're going to be doing 2 whole podcasts dedicated specifically to seasons 1 and season 2 of the Power Rangers audio drama. After which we'll move on to Time Ranger. We hope you guys will join us all for that. Thank you guys so much for checking us out, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes. If you are watching this on YouTube, please leave some comments down below, because remember, we will give shout outs to the comments that are left. We will take a time in a segment of our podcast to read them if need be. With that said, we will see you guys next time when we continue Zyuranger. We only got 2 more podcasts. We can do this. We just need to power through it. Until that time, we will see you guys later. You guys stay safe. We love you, and may the power protect you.